بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. هنتكلم في الفيديو ده عن 51 سؤال في ال Object Oriented Programming بيتسألوا في الانترفيو questions والانسرز بتاعتهم. What is Object Oriented Programming؟ ايه هي ال OOP؟ This is among the most basic OOP's interview questions or object-oriented programming interview question. Your answer should be إجابتك لازم تبقى ال Object-oriented programming refers to the programming paradigm defined using objects. هو نموذج برمجي بيستخدم أو اتعرف عن طريق استخدام ال objects instead of only بدل من فقط ال functions and ال methods. The object contain data called fields أو attributes and methods that provide the logic or supporting code. It provides capabilities such as inheritance والpolymorphism, encapsulation والabstraction. More simply, this is the approach used in developing applications emphasizing objects. هو approach بنستخدمه ان احنا نتبع كل حاجة as an object. The object is an entity containing data as well as code. بتحتوي على بيانات بالإضافة للكود which allows the binding of data with code. ال Object Oriented Programming has various benefits. ليها فوائد عديدة. It is instrumental in breaking down a huge problem into its simple. بتقسم مشكلة كبيرة لمشاكل أصغر وأبسط. Solvable chunks. For instance, for each many problem, the programmers write a class that does what is required. لكل مشكلة المبرمج بيكريت كلاس يعمل المطلوب. The advantages of the OOP include support modularity for troubleshooting. Whenever there is any problem in a code, there is no need to go through each code in a serial manner. By the look, the programmers can figure out the problem if it is in any particular class or not. This is how amazingly encapsulation work. ده شرح ازاي الانكابسوليشن بيشتغل. The objects are self-contained and each part of the functionality does its own thing, leaving the other bits alone. تاني حاجة الكود reuse through inheritance. It is useful in creating one generic class and defining subclasses that are supposed to inherit the generic class traits. بكريت كلاس generic واحد فيه كل الصفات المشتركة ما بين السب كلاسز بتاعتي، وبكريت سب كلاس extend من السوبر كلاس ده واحط فيه الخصائص بتاعته بس. The programmers can also change code in one class and all the subclasses will inherit the change. Flexibility provided using polymorphism. المرونة عن طريق polymorphism. A single object can mold and adapt to whichever class it is in. One function can be created in one parent class. تقدر تكريت function واحدة في parent class. polymorphism brings flexibility to the design. بيمنحك المرونة للديزاين بتاعك allowing the same method to have different implementation. وبيسمح لنفس الميثود ان يبقى ليها تنفيذ مختلف. What are the main features of object-oriented programming? In this OOP interview question, make sure you list 4 main features. Inheritance, it enhances the code ability. بيحسن قدرة الكود to reuse existing objects. انك تعيد استخدام objects موجودة. Encapsulation enhance modularity. It makes sure to keep routines separate and avoid any conflict. بيساعدك انك تخلي الروتين بتاعك منعزل او منفصل وبيتجنب الكونفليكت. البوليمورفيزم it allows new shapes to be easily integrated. بيسمح لشيبس جديدة ان هي تintegrate بسهولة. الداتا abstraction it ensures that بتضمن لك only essential information المعلومات المهمة فقط أو الضرورية فقط is displayed هي اللي بتتعرض and the details are hidden والتفاصيل بتختفي. While answering this type of OOB's interview question, make sure not to suffice your response by only mentioning the feature. Instead, always say at least one line of information of the feature. يعني قول معلومة زيادة عن الفيتشر دي. What are the advantage of object-oriented programming? ايه المزايا ال OOB؟ One of the most common OOB's interview question. Problems of any level of complexity can be supported by object-oriented programming. Highly complex problems can be handled by OOB. It provides an efficient mechanism for code reuse إعادة استخدام الكود using inheritance باستخدام الانهيرتنس which reduces redundancy اللي بيقلل تكرار الكود. It provides a mechanism for hiding data بيديك آلية إنك تقدر تخفي البيانات بتاعتك. It is based on a bottom-up approach مبني على ال bottom-up approach. It offers flexibility بيديك مرونة through polymorphism من خلال ال polymorphism. It improves the maintainability of code بيديك أو بيحسن صيانة الكود بتاعك. It is secure and provides security through encapsulation وبيديك حماية عن طريق ال encapsulation. It allows for a class specific behavior through polymorphism. It easier to debug أسهل في debugging. It is easily maintainable قابل للصيانة بسهولة. It provides for effective troubleshooting. What is structural programming? Structural programming refers to the traditional method of programming الطريقة التقليدية للبرمجة which is based on functions مبنية على functions دي اللي قبل ال OOB. The overall program logic اللوجيك بشكل عام للبرنامج is divided into بيتقسم إلى functions to provide a logical structure. It is based on a top-down approach عكس ال OOB ده top-down approach. Structural programming is suitable for easy to moderately complex problems. What is a class? ايه هو ال class? A class defines the template or the definition of an object. بيعرف النموذج بتاع الأوبجكت بتاعي. It is used for creating objects at runtime. It provides the data structure, provides initial values for the attributes and methods that provide the logic for the intended behavior of the object. The class doesn't consume memory at runtime. ما بيستهلكش من الميموري أثناء runtime. A class refers to a logical entity. A vehicle may be defined as a class. ممكن نعرف ال vehicle المركبة ك class. The feature of structural programming include it follows a top-down approach. The programs are defined into small self-contained structure. It focuses on function and the processes that usually work on data. It is represented as a logical structure. There is no way of data hiding. مفيش data hiding في ال structural programming and it is less secure وأقل حماية. There is the importance given to the code. There is less flexibility. مرونة أقل. There is less abstraction. This makes for OOP important question. You may also be asked to enunciate the difference between structured and object programming, so prepare at least 5 points for each. ممكن تتسأل عن الفرق ما بين ال structural programming وال object oriented programming. What do you mean by an object؟ يعني ايه object؟ An object refers to the runtime instance created from the class during program execution. Object can refer to real-world entities that have attributes or properties and methods to support the behavior. Objects consume memory space when they are initialized. أول لما initialize object بيخزن مساحة في الميموري وريفرنس عنوان للأوبجكت ده. The objects are the first thing the programmers think of first. أول حاجة بيفكر فيها المبرمج while designing أثناء التصميم. The objects are the class instance. هي نسخة من الكلاس that allows the programmers to make use of variables. بيسمح له إن هو يستخدم variables والmethods اللي موجودة جوه الكلاس ده. The memory is allocated in the heap memory. الأوبجكت بتتخزن في الهيب memory when the objects are created. أول لما بتكريت object. The objects are the physical entities that can be manipulated. An object is created by using new keyword. بس بكريت object من خلال ان انا بكريت كلمة new keyword. الكومبايلر بيعرف على طول ان دي بتخزن او الكلمة دي هيخزن مساحة جديدة في الميموري اول اما اكريت new instance منه. They can be also created using new instance or clone method and deserialization. There are various uses of objects في استخدامات متنوعة للobject. They can be used to access a piece of memory using an object reference variable. They can also be used to hold, manipulate, and reference the data. Is it always necessary to create object from class؟ هل من الضروري ان انا اكريت object من الكلاس؟ No. It is possible to call a base class. ممكن انادي على البيس كلاس نفسه method if it is defined as a static method. لو الميثود دي اتعرفت كstatic اقدر انادي عليها من جوه الكلاس من غير ما كريت object من الكلاس ده. What is a constructor؟ ايه هو constructor؟ A constructor method is used for initializing the object. They are special type of methods and have the same name as the class. ليه نفس اسم الكلاس. A constructor has various advantages attached to it. It is invoked automatically. بيستدعى بشكل تلقائي as soon as the object of class is created. كل ما ناديت أو create object من class ده. This is popularly known as automatic initialization of object. استدعاء أو إنك تكريت initialization بشكل تلقائي من الobject. The constructor also guarantees that the object undergoes proper initialization before being used. List the various types of constructor. ايه الانواع المختلفة من constructors. Multiple type of constructors that are supported across multiple object-oriented programming language are a default constructor, والcopy constructor, والstatic constructor, والprivate constructor, والparameterized constructor. طيب ايه هو الديستراكتور؟ الديستراكتور عكس الكونستراكتور. is a method used for freeing up the resources allocated to an object. بيشيل المساحة اللي اتخزنت للobject ده. This method is automatically invoked. بتستدعى بشكل تلقائي when an object is being destroyed. أول لما بيحصل destroy للobject بتاعي وما بيكونش ليه استخدام. The destructor is used بيستخدم to destruct the object when they are no longer in use، ما بقاش ليه استخدام. when the object is being destroyed أو لما بيحصل destroying للobject ده، the destructors are called، بيتم استدعاء ال destructor. overloading is not allowed، مفيش overloading في destructor. moreover they indulge in releasing the memory. The destructor can never be static، ما ينفعش يبقى static and they have no return type، وملوش return type. What is meant by a copy constructor؟ يعني ايه ال copy constructor؟ A copy constructor helps in cloning object by replicating the values from one object into another object which belongs to the same class. بيساعدك في انك تاخد كلون من object عن طريق ان هو بيريبليكيت الفاليوز من object للتاني اللي بينتمي لنفس الكلاس. It is a special constructor which is used to make a copy of an existence during initialization. Whenever the object is passed to a function, an exact copy bitwise of that particular object is created and given to function. OOB's concept interview question are asked to OOB بتتسأل في الانترفيو to understand how well the candidate is throughout with the concept of the domain. The recruiters typically ask this type of question to understand how well the candidate can be asset to the organization. Can you please highlight the difference between class and structure؟ ايه الفرق ما بين الكلاس والستراكشر؟ A class means a user defined template، مخطط او نموذج from which objects are created at runtime. A class is made up of methods that provide the logic for various behaviors supported by the objects. A structure means a user-defined combination of attributes of various data types. هو combination خليط من الاتريبيوتس من data types مختلفة ومتنوعة. ادي الفرق ما بين الكلاس والستراكشر في التيبل ده. الكلاس instantiates an object using a new keyword. The structure instantiates an object without using a keyword، من غير ما بيستخدم keyword. Instance of a class is an object. The instance of a structure is a structure variable. Has the ability to inherit from other classes or objects. عنده القدرة إن هو inherit من classes تانية. هنا doesn't have the ability to inherit from other class or object. Can contain destructor. هنا cannot contain a destructor. Class keyword can define class. هنا struct keyword can define بكلمة structure. Members remain private when there are no access specifiers are declared. الممبرز بتوعه بيفضلوا برايفت لما ما بيبقاش فيه access specifiers اتعرفت. هنا الممبرز remain public when there are no access specifier are declared. When you are an experienced person, the recruiters want to see some depth in you. In that sense, they can ask you to let out differences among two concepts like shown above. When answering to these types of OOB's interview question and answers for experienced professionals, make sure to categorize and structure your response and don't indulge in answering vaguely or without any structure. يعني هو بيقول لك لما الريكروتر بيسأل شخص متمكن في الاوبجكت اورينتد بروجرامينج ممكن يسأله عايز يفهم هو فاهم بعمق المفاهيم بتاعت الاوبجكت اورينتد بروجرامينج ولا لا. فبيسأل عن المفاهيم او الفرق ما بين حاجتين عشان يشوف مدى فهمك للمفاهيم دي. Can you please explain the concept of inheritance with an example؟ تقدر تشرح مفهوم الانهيرتنس بمثال. Inheritance is a powerful feature of object-oriented programming which allows classes to inherit properties. تسمح للclasses إن هي تورث الخصائص والصفات and methods from other classes من classes تانية. This helps improve code reuse. بيساعد في إعادة استخدام الكود. For example على سبيل المثال a base class represents a logical concept such as a vehicle that may define only the common properties shared by all types of vehicle. However, child classes can inherit from this base class to define more specific types of classes such as truck, car, bus. In this case, the child classes will inherit the common attributes من vehicle class اللي هو البيرنت and will be able وهيبقى عندهم القدرة to define attributes و methods specific خاصة بيهم هما to its own. What are the limitations of inheritance؟ ايه هي قيود inheritance؟ The inheritance requires more processing time for the programmers as it has to navigate various classes during execution. Due to inheritance, the parent and the child class are tightly coupled. بيبقى في tightly coupled مقترنين ببعض. الكلاسز مقترنة أو dependent على بعض. When any change are needed لما بيبقى في أي تغيير مطلوب in the logic, it may require ممكن يتطلب changes تغييرات in both في الاثنين parent and the child class. If the inheritance is not correctly implemented لو ما تنفذش بشكل صحيح it can lead to undesired result لنتائج غير مفضلة. What are the various types of inheritance؟ ايه هي الانواع المختلفة من الانهيرتنس؟ السنجل والمالتيبل والمالتي ليفل والهيراركيال والهايبريد inheritance. What is the meaning of hierarchical inheritance? When multiple subclasses inherit a base class, it is called hierarchical inheritance. لما بيبقى فيه multiple subclass يعني أكتر من subclass بينهرت من base class واحد اللي هو زي شكل الهرم ده اسمه hierarchical inheritance. The derived class can act as a base class to new derived class. The more higher in hierarchy the class would be, more general information it would contain. Distinguish between multiple and multi-level inheritance. فرق ما بين المultiple والmulti-level inheritance. طيب in the case of multiple inheritance class inherit more than one parent class. عندي class بيinherit من أكتر من parent class. In contrast على العكس المالتي ليفل inheritance معناه means that class inherit from another class يعني class بيورث من class والكلاس التاني اللي هو بيورث منه ده عبارة عن sub class من parent class تاني بيورث منه which is a subclass of some other parent class. Refer to the below mentioned table to understand the differences. المالتيبل والمالتي ليفل. A class can inherit from more than one base class. هنا it is an inheritance type from a derived class where the derived class can act as a base class for a new class. It brings more complexity into the system, hence not used widely. It doesn't bring complexity in the system, hence widely used. It has two class levels, namely base and derived class. It has three class levels, namely base, intermediate, and derived class. اللي هو البيس كلاس والوسيط والدرايفد كلاس. احنا قلنا عندي كلاس بينهرت من كلاس ده هو الوسيط اللي اصلا بينهرت من السوبر كلاس بتاعه. How do you define hybrid inheritance? is defined as the usage of multiple and multi-level inheritance in a single class. يبقى هو خليط من أو combination من المالتيبل والمالتي ليفل inheritance. طيب what is a subclass? The child class which inherits from another class is referred to as subclass. لو class بيورث من super class تاني هو ده السبكلاس. طيب ايه هو السوبر كلاس؟ define عرف السوبر كلاس. A superclass implies a class from which other classes inherit. Example, the vehicle will be referred to a superclass as superclass of classes زي الكار والباص والتراك if they all inherited from the same superclass. What is meant by interface? Interface allows a declaration of methods, تعريف للmethods without providing a definition من غير ما تديها implementation بمعنى أصح. You cannot create objects from the interface. ما تقدرش create object من الانترفيس. When a class implements an interface لما class بيimplement interface it needs to implement the methods provided by the interface. محتاج ان هو implement الميثودز اللي جوه الانترفيس ده. With the interface implementation, a class can be perform a role that is different from its class hierarchy. It also provides a standard set of methods for a group of classes. The objects in these classes can be accessed using standard set of methods without concerning the location in class hierarchy. An interface is of high importance to achieve abstraction. Functionality of multiple inheritance can be supported. Moreover, it is possible to attain loose coupling using interface. بتقلل الكابلنج اعتماد الكومبوننتس ما بينها وما بين بعضها باستخدام الانترفيس. ال OOP coding interview questions like this سؤال زي ده should be elaborated and must make a mention of some importance the function performs. What is polymorphism? ايه هو البوليمورفيزم؟ Polymorphism is a significant feature of object-oriented programming. It means an ability القدرة to exist in multiple forms إن أبقى موجود بأكتر من شكل. A single interface can be implemented in multiple ways by providing this definition. Features of polymorphism: the functionality of a method behaves differently in different scenarios. The method behavior depends upon the provided data. Same name for a member or a method can exist in a class with different types. It supports implicit type convergence. Type of polymorphism: runtime والcompile time polymorphism. الادفانتج مزايا البوليمورفيزم: الكودز can be reused using polymorphism. اقدر اعيد استخدام الكود. coupling reduction between functionalities. Single variable name can be supported for multiple data types. الcoupling reduction between الfunctionalities قللت ان الكود يبقى tight coupling يعني معتمد dependent على بعض. قللت الكلام ده عن طريق البوليمورفيزم. Single variable name can be supported for multiple data types. Reduction in complexity. Better maintainability. صيانة الكود بشكل أفضل. What is meant by static polymorphism؟ يعني إيه static polymorphism؟ The static polymorphism or static binding allows us بيسمح لنا to link a function with objects during compilation. It can be implemented by method overloading of operator overloading. Features of static polymorphism: أول حاجة collects information during compile time to call a method. It occurs بيحدث أثناء compile time. Alternatively called as static binding. بيسمى برضو ب static binding and early binding. method overloading is an example. الميثود overload مثال على الستاتيك polymorphism. طيب what it mean to by dynamic polymorphism? A dynamic polymorphism or dynamic binding allows for a call to an overridden method. بتنادي على method حصل لها override أثناء الرun time. طيب الفيتشرز للديناميك polymorphism collects information at runtime to call a method. بيجمع المعلومات أثناء الرun time عشان ينادي على method. occurs at runtime بيحدث أثناء الرun time. alternatively called as dynamic binding or late binding. The execution speed is slow. method overriding is an example. مثال على الديناميك polymorphism. What is method overloading? ايه method overloading? One of the most common OOB's interview question. The method overloading is a very useful feature of object-oriented programming. ميزة مهمة ومفيدة في ال OOB in which multiple method يعني أكتر من method can have the same method name. ممكن يبقى ليها نفس الاسم. However, they have different arguments. ليها arguments مختلفة. The call to the method is resolved based on the argument. انك تستدعي الميثود بيبقى بناء على الارجيومنتس بتاعتها. طيب ايه المزايا بتاعت الاوفرلود ده؟ اول حاجه allows to use the same name for a group of method. ممكن تستخدم نفس الاسم لجروب من مجموعه من الميثودز having the same purpose. ليهم نفس الغرض. provides an easy way. طريقه سهله to handle the default parameter value. It is possible only in same class. متاحة في نفس الكلاس أو ممكنة في نفس الكلاس. It is used to implement the compile time polymorphism. Static method can be overloaded. It is helpful to extend functionalities. What is the meaning of method overriding? الميثود overriding allows بيسمح للchild class to redefine يعيد تعريف الميثود اللي موجودة في الparent class عن طريق by applying its implementation. However, the method name, argument and return type remain the same. الميثود اسم الميثود والarguments بتاعتها والreturn type هما في البيرنت كلاس وفي السب كلاس. Can you explain what operator overloading is? ايه هو الاوبريتور overloading؟ The term operator overloading means that depending on the arguments passed, the operator's behavior can be changed. However, it works only for user-defined types. يبقى depending on the arguments passed بناء على أو اعتمادا على الarguments اللي هتتباصى. حلو. The operators behavior الoperators هتتصرف can be changed. ممكن أغيرها. Advantage of method overriding only possible in private class. بأوفررايد عليها في السب classes بس. The method must be non-virtual or static method for overriding it to happen. It is helpful to override or change the functionalities. It is used to implement the runtime polymorphism. How do you explain the difference between overloading and overriding? ايه الفرق ما بينهم؟ Overload a method means that multiple method أكتر من method share the same method name but have different arguments. However, in the case of the overriding, the child class can redefine the implementation of a method by retaining the same arguments. Another difference is that overloading is resolved at compile time while overriding is resolved at run time. How do you explain the difference between overloading and overriding? Overloading a method means that multiple methods share the same method name but have different arguments. However, in the case of the overriding, the child class can redefine the implementation of a method by retaining the same argument. Another difference is that overloading is resolved at compile time while overriding is resolved at run time. طيب, what do you know about encapsulation? تعرف ايه عن الانكابسوليشن. One of the most common OOB's interview question. Encapsulation is an important feature of object-oriented programming. It allows the binding of the data and the logic together in a single entity. It also allows the hiding of data. بيسمح لك بإخفاء الداتا والبيانات بتاعتك. Advantage of using encapsulation. مزايا استخدامك للإنكابسوليشن. It provides better control over the data. بيسمح لك بتحكم أكتر في البيانات بتاعتك. A field of class can be made read only or write only. It provides higher flexibility. مرونة أعلى. There is more scope for easy debugging and testing. The data can be hidden using encapsulation, thus increasing security. تقدر تخفي الداتا بتاعتك عن طريق استخدامك للإنكابسوليشن، وده بيزود الحماية في السوفت وير بتاعك. What is meant by data abstraction؟ ايه معنى الداتا abstraction؟ Data abstraction refers to the ability of object-oriented programming that allows hiding the implementation details of logic yet allows for access to only important information. بيسمح لك بالوصول فقط للمعلومات المهمة وبيخفي عنك التفاصيل الغير ضرورية بالنسبة لك. Advantage of data abstraction. مزايا ال data abstraction. Focus on the observable behavior of an object. Problems can be solved at the design level using the abstraction. Unwanted information can be hidden using data abstraction. Reliability can come into implementation with data hiding features. It can be used by either using an abstract class أو الانترفيس. How can data abstraction be accomplished؟ ازاي احقق الداتا abstraction؟ الداتا abstraction can be accomplished through either an abstract class من خلال abstract class او abstract method. What is meant by abstract class؟ يعني ايه abstract class؟ Any OOB's interview question and answer guide won't be complete without this question. An abstract class is made of abstract methods. مصنوع من أو جواه abstract methods. The abstract methods are only declared. بتعرفها فقط بس ما بتعملهاش implementation. However, not implemented. When a subclass need to use the method. لو في subclass هي extend من ال abstract class ده ومحتاج يستخدم الميثود دي. It needs to implement those methods. هيحتاج إن هو يعمل لها implementation. طيب إيه هي الفيتشرز للabstract class؟ It doesn't support multiple inheritance. ما بيدعمش multiple inheritance. It contains data members. It consists of constructors. It can possess access modifiers for the subs, functions, and properties. Only the complete member of the abstract class can be static. Can you please elaborate on access specifiers? Support this OOB's interview question answer with examples. اشرح المثال ده أو اشرح الإجابة على السؤال ده بمثال أو أمثلة. الأكسس specifiers are special keywords that control the accessibility. بتتحكم في الوصول of methods or classes وغيرهم. They are also called access modifiers. بيسموا برضو بالaccess modifiers and are used to achieve encapsulation. وبيستخدموا عشان يحققوا encapsulation. The keyword public, private, and protected are some examples للaccess specifiers. How do you create an instance of an abstract class؟ ازاي تكريت instance من abstract class؟ ما ينفعش طبعا. You cannot create an instance of an abstract class since it lacks implementation logic. ما فيهوش implementation اصلا. حلو. in its methods في الميثودز بتاعته. You first need to create a subclass that implement all method. محتاج تكريت subclass بيimplement كل الميثود before an object can be initialized. What is a virtual function? A virtual function defined بتتعرف في parent class and may have definitions implemented. A subclass can override these definitions. يقدر يعمل override للدefinition ده. What is a pure virtual function? A pure virtual function is only declared in the parent class. بتتعرف فقط في parent class. It is also referred to as an abstract function. Pure virtual function don't contain any definition in the base class. ملهاش أي definition في base class. They must be redefined in the subclass for the implementation need. محتاجة يتعمل لها redefinition في subclass عشان التنفيذ. Distinguish between data abstraction and encapsulation. فرق لي ما بين الداتا abstraction والencapsulation. الداتا abstraction is the ability to hide unwanted information. هي القدرة على إخفاء المعلومات الغير ضرورية. حلو، ده الابستراكشن. طيب الانكابسوليشن refers to the ability to hide the data، إخفاء البيانات as well as the method together. Refer to the below mentioned table. ادي data abstraction والencapsulation. هنا shows only the functionality to the user. بيظهر فقط الفانكشناليتي لليوزر. الencapsulation it wraps or binds the data together into a single unit. بيغلف الداتا كلها في single unit، وحدة واحدة. الابستراكشن reduce the code complexity، بيقلل تعقيد الكود. هنا hides data for data protection، عشان حماية الداتا البيانات. It uses abstract classes and interfaces to achieve data abstraction. عشان احقق الداتا abstraction بستخدم الابستراكت classes والinterfaces. الانكابسوليشن can be achieved، اقدر احققه عن طريق making the data members private and accessing them، وبقدر اوصل لهم عن طريق public methods. Solve the problem at the design level. هنا solve the problem at the implementation level. Focuses on what the object does instead of how it does it. يعني بيركز على الاوبجكت ده بيعمل ايه اكتر، او بدل من ازاي بيعمله. حلو. هنا hides the internal mechanism of how the object does something. بيخفي internal mechanism الآلية الداخلية of how object، إن ازاي الأوبجكت بيعمل شيء. What are the difference between interface والabstract class? It is one of the general OOB's interview question and answers guides. An abstract class can support both abstract and non-abstract method. الابستراكت كلاس ممكن يكون جواه abstract method و non-abstract methods عادية. However إنما الانترفيس allow only جواه فقط لازم يبقى abstract methods. طيب in the case of an abstract class both final and non-final variables are supported. ممكن يكون في variables final و non-final. إنما الانترفيس has variables that are by default، هي by default defined as final. The abstract class can have private، ممكن يكون في private public attributes. إنما الانترفيس لازم أو have attributes as public by default. Refers to the below mentioned table. ادي الانترفيس وادي الابستراكت كلاس. هنا support multiple inheritance. الابستراكت كلاس doesn't support multiple inheritance. Doesn't contain data members. هنا contain data members. Doesn't contain constructor. هنا contain constructor. هنا contains only incomplete members. هنا contain both complete and incomplete members. هنا members cannot be static. هنا only complete members can be static. This can be OOB tricky interview question where the interview is not asking to list the differences between generic function but rather is fitting two different tasks together. What is a final variable؟ ايه هو الفاينل variable؟ means a variable whose value doesn't change. يعني الفاريبل القيمة بتاعته ما ينفعش تتغير. What is meant by an exception؟ يعني ايه exception؟ An exception is an event raised during a program execution. حاجة بتحصل أثناء لما بعمل execution للبروجرام caused by undesirable input or a condition that prevent further processing. An exception causes an interruption in the program's normal execution and must be handled via exception handling logic to avoid the program's termination. A runtime error in the program causes it. It is an event that occurs during the execution of a program. It is identified as an event which distributes the normal operation flow of the program's instruction, which disrupts the normal operation flow of the program's instruction. There are various advantages attached to the exception handling, such as maintaining the proper and normal flow of the program. It does so by separating the error-prone code from the normal code. Moreover, clarifying the code and removing any errors increase the readability of the code altogether. Define exception handling. عرف لي ال exception handling. Exception handling refers to the mechanism used for handling the exception. Raised during the program execution. It allows for the graceful handling of undesirable results. Is an error basically the same as an exception؟ هل الايرور هو الاكسبشن؟ الايرورز mean a problem، هي مشكلة that the program shouldn't catch while the exception. الايرور هو مشكلة البرنامج ما يقدرش يمسكها يعني لا catch. انما الاكسبشن implies بيشير ل condition that should be caught by the program عن طريق البرنامج. طيب what is a try catch block؟ A try catch is used for exception handling عشان اعمل بيه exception handling. The set of statements that may cause a potential error is enclosed in a try block. When an exception is raised, it is caught by the catch block. لو في exception حصل هيجي جوه ال catch block. The logic to handle an exception is placed inside the catch block. طيب what is a finally block؟ ايه هو ال finally block؟ finally is used for executing عشان يعمل execute ل essential statement ضرورية ان انا انفذها في حالة ان هو دخل في التراي او في الكاتش such as to free the memory زي ان انا اعمل free للميموري مثلا او close files اقفل ملفات او database connection اقفل database connection. Even if an exception occur حتى لو حصل exception the finally block always run. الفاينل يعني لو دخل في الاكسبشن الفاينل بلوك على طول هيحصل له run. Features of finally block. It is used to execute an important code. بيستخدم عشان execute بيه كود مهم ان انا انفذه. It is always executed whether the exception is handled or not. يعني بيحصل له execution سواء حصل exception ولا لا. It should be the last block of execution. لازم يبقى آخر جزء في الاكسكيوشن بعد ما بكتب التراي والكاتش بكتب الفاينل block. It contains all the important and crucial statements whether the exception happens or not. What is the method finalize used for? The finalize method is called to free the unused resources before the garbage collector gets initiated. بتفضي الريسورسز الغير مستخدمة قبل الجاربج collector. What is garbage collection and how does it work؟ ايه هي الجاربج collection وازاي بتشتغل؟ الجاربج collection is the ability of the programming language، قدرة لغة البرمجة to perform automatic memory management، إن هي تنفذ تدير الميموري بشكل تلقائي. It automatically frees up the memory، بتفضي الميموري by removing the objects، بإن هي تشيل الأوبجكت that are no longer required، ما بقتش مطلوبة أو ليها استخدام. Should you always use object oriented programming؟ هل على طول محتاج إنك تستخدم ال OOP؟ Are there any limitation وفي قيود على ال object oriented programming؟ This is one of the advanced OOP's interview question and answers. Thought object-oriented offers many advantages. It has some disadvantages too. ليها عيوب. Know this when preparing for answering for OOP concept interview question for fresher. First of all, it has a steep learning curve compared to procedural programming. It may take a while to get used to thinking and programming in terms of object، انك تفكر وتتعامل مع الحاجات as an object for many people. Secondly، ثانيا it may take more experience to design a program in terms of object. Using OOP concept for smaller programming tasks may not be efficient. لو مفهوم انك تستخدم ال OOP في smaller task ممكن ما يبقاش حاجة ليها كفاءة. Top advanced OOP's interview question. Here some of the most advanced OOP interview questions that you should prepare before your interview. This object-oriented interview question will keep you prepared for all types of curveballs from the recruiters. What is the meaning of constructor? Can you state some of the main feature of constructor؟ يعني ايه constructor وقول لي ايه الفيتشرز الرئيسية ليه. طيب this is one of the most frequently asked OOP programming interview question. The constructor can be defined as a special method of a class that can be called automatically، بيحصل لها استدعاء بشكل تلقائي when an instance of class is created، أو لما بنكريت instance من الكلاس. Some of the main features، بعض الخصائص الرئيسية ليه. It doesn't have any return type، ملوش return type. It can be overloaded، ممكن أعمل له overloading. It can be invoked automatically by .NET framework، thus eliminating the need of declare a constructor to declare a constructor. Can you state any one way of preventing class from overriding in C#؟ ممكن تقول لي طريقة أمنع بيها الكلاس من إن هو يحصل له overriding في ال C#. We can prevent a class from overriding in C#. ما نقدرش we can prevent، نقدر نمنع الكلاس من إن هو يحصل له overriding في C# quite easily with the help of، بمساعدة sealed keyboard. When is it recommended to use a structure instead of a class؟ امتى يوصى ان انا استخدم الستراكشر بدل ما استخدم الكلاس؟ This is one of the frequently asked interview question. Here is how you can answer it. You shouldn't define a structure unless the specific types has all these characteristics. The instance size is smaller than size، الحجم أصغر من 16 بايت. It is immutable. It shouldn't have to be boxed frequently. It can logically represent as a single value. آخر سؤال. Why is the virtual keyword used in code؟ virtual keyword، بستخدم كلمة virtual is especially useful، مفيدة while defining a class، لما بتيجي تعرف class since it can specify that the method and properties of the said class can be overridden in derived class. ممكن يحصل لها overridden في الكلاس اللي هيورث منه. ودول كانوا 51 سؤال في ال OOP للليفلز كلها، الفريشر والميد ليفل والادفانسد questions.